All right, so it's 7 o'clock on Monday, September 19th, 2022, and I'll call the meeting to order. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Okay, seeing none. Before we get into the minutes of the previous meeting and the rest of the agenda, I just want to say thank you to staff and our consultants for the CIP open house that we just had at 6 o'clock today. And just a reminder to everybody that if you have any comments about our community improvement plan that is in draft form, to contact staff with any comments that you have. And you can find out all the information about the community improvement plan on our website. I believe there's a tab that says community improvement plan somewhere.
It's numerous places. Yeah,
perfect. As well, I want to thank staff, specifically Donna, Elliot, and Karen Robb for putting together the retirement party that we had 2 weeks ago for Richard Elliott from our roads department, as well as Jim Reeves, our drainage superintendents. So they retired in the last feels like forever ago, because it was during COVID and we weren't able to get together to have a party there. So they put together that party, and I think we had a great time there. And unfortunately, we weren't. Our former fire chief Aaron Nordoff was not able to attend, but it was also supposed to be a little party for Aaron as well. And the last thing I just want to mention, as we all know, we have the passing of the Queen, and today was her funeral. And though the world is going to look like a different place going forward, I'm sure it seems a little different to after 70 years. You know, Queen Elizabeth II, and now with King Charles, it feels very different to say that off the tongue. So I'm sure that we've all seen everything online and paid our respects to the Queen. All right, so the minutes of our previous meeting, and those were held on September 6th, 2022. Mover and seconder for those minutes. Okay, Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Brody. All those in favor? And that's carried. And now I remember why those two did that, because the last meeting was just going back and forth, because it was a meeting of three. All righty, so we have a pretty big planning meeting today, so we'll jump into our committee of adjustment. And we need a motion of council that council convene as the committee of adjustment for the purpose of hearing application for consent B10-2022 at 7:03. Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor Clark, all those in favor, and that's carried. And that application is consent B10-2022, and the owner is Alan Langford. Are we in the perfect? If you want us to just come forward to the seat there. And before I hand over to Aaron, I'm just going to say that the purpose of the following committee of adjustment and public meeting are to give the committee of adjustment and council, as well as the general public, an opportunity to hear all interested parties with respect to the applications before being heard this evening. The public is advised that comments expressed in written material presented are a matter of public record available for full disclosure. If a public or public body files an appeal of decision made this evening to the Ontario Land Tribunal without having made a written submission to the committee and or council, the tribunal may dismiss the appeal. And if you wish to be notified of a decision in writing, please submit a written request to the clerk. So with that, Alan, did you get a copy of the report from our planner?
Today, sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. Well, that's okay. At the end of it, Aaron will tell you what the recommendation is, and it looks. I think you should be happy. We'll hand over to Aaron and to go through the report. And if you have any questions, what I'll do is I'll ask you to push that button, and then the camera will go to you, and then everybody can hear you live on YouTube. So, Aaron, you're good to go.
Thank you, Worship. So the first application before the committee this evening, again, is for B10-2022. And we're looking for a severance of a residence from a larger farm parcel, which has been deemed surplus to the needs of the farming operation. So the subject property in total is approximately 42.3 hectares in size and is located on the northwest corner of Walker's Drive and MacArthur Road within Adelaide Metcalfe. The lot width is proposed to be approximately 65 meters long with 98 meters of depth and a lot area of 0.64 hectares. The lands proposed to be severed contain an existing single detached dwelling, which was constructed in 1981, and a drive shed. The dwelling is privately serviced with an individual septic system and well, and the lands proposed to be severed include an existing access onto Walkers, which is under the jurisdiction of the township. The lands proposed to be retained contain agricultural land and crop production and a barn. The easternmost driveway is proposed to be included with the retained land. So I just want to confirm that you can see my shared screen. I have the image of the farm. Perfect. Thank you, Mike. So I just wanted to, I don't typically go through my policy context within my report, but I did want to note to the committee this evening that we have been including a new portion which references the Middlesex County updated official plan. So official plan amendment number 3, which makes reference to surplus farm dwelling severances. I just wanted to note that the language will be changing once the official plan is fully approved and in place. The only change to note is that the January 1st, 1999 rule is changing to built at least 10 years prior. So I did want to include that note in my policy analysis, although it is not currently in effect. The township, the subject property is zoned general agriculture. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. The chief building official advised of several comments, the first one being that the application would not meet NDS for the barn proposed to be included on the retained farm parcel. I do have a recommendation in my analysis that I will make reference to shortly. The severed driveway may not meet the setbacks to the new property line. This should be confirmed. Please have the severed and retained parcels cleared of any debris which would not meet the property standards bylaw, including any scrap metals or materials. Number 4, the laneway servicing the barn should not stray onto the severed parcel, and this should be separated by a vegetated buffer. Please confirm all hydro wires and water servicing the barn are independent from the residential lot being severed. And finally, an address sign should be erected for the retained property. So I have addressed the majority of those comments through recommended conditions this evening. And I have not received any comments or phone calls from the public in relation to this application. So the PPS, county official plan, and local official plan generally permit lot creation to dispose of dwelling surplus to a farming operation. I'm satisfied that farm consolidation has been achieved, as well that the dwelling was constructed in 1981, meeting the criteria of being constructed prior to January 1st of 1999. To facilitate the proposed severance, a rezoning will be required to amend the severed lot from general agriculture to surplus dwelling, which will recognize the residential use and limit the range of permitted uses. And as well, the remnant farm parcel is looking for a rezoning to agriculture only, which will prohibit any new residences from being created. I have evaluated the drive shed as well on the severed lot and note that the structure exceeds the maximum ground floor for an accessory building in the SD zone. This is set at 75 square meters. However, I am recommending that it be recognized within a site-specific SD zone category at time of rezoning. The applicant has requested to maintain the existing barn on the retained farm parcel to be used for farm equipment storage. The chief building official indicated this structure would not meet MDS as it is too close to the proposed lot line and therefore must be restricted from usage of livestock in the future. So I am recommending as a condition of approval that the structure be issued a change of use permit to ensure the structure is not capable of housing livestock, and any further the confirmation be received that the hydro wires and water servicing the barn are not coming from the residential lot or do not cross the proposed lot boundaries. The drive shed and barn are located about 12 meters away from each other and share an access onto Walker's Drive currently. So the applicant has requested to maintain this driveway on the lands to be retained to service the barn. So planning staff and the chief building official recommend that the access to the driveway be restricted, or sorry, the driveway to the drive shed be restricted by a vegetated buffer, and separate access to the drive shed will be required via the separate lot. Additionally, the easternmost lot line should be established in a way that ensures the driveway does not stray onto the severed parcel, and there is a clear distinction between the two lots. Staff note that the zoning bylaw requires the drive shed to be located a minimum of 3 meters from the property line, which we will evaluate at time of survey. And if required, we can acknowledge any sort of deficiencies through the rezoning process. We will also be looking for confirmation on setbacks between the dwelling, septic system, accessory building, and proposed lot lines. And should there be any additional deficiencies, we can recognize that through the rezoning. The chief building official is also requiring that the severed and retained parcels be cleared of any debris that would not meet property standard bylaw, which is recommended as a condition as well. So I am satisfied that the severance is supportable, and my recommendation for the application this evening is approval, subject to 16 conditions. So there is a number of them that are our standard conditions. I won't touch on those. Al has gone through this process previously, so I'm sure he's familiar with the standard. But I will note there are several that are specific to this application. Number 6, we are looking to have the lot, the severed and retained, cleared of any debris that would not meet property standards bylaw. Number 7, we need a municipal 911 address to be assigned to the retained parcel. Number 8, that a change of use permit for the barn on the retained lot be obtained. Number 9, that access to the drive shed from the lands to be retained be decommissioned and by establishing a vegetated buffer. Number 10, that the easternmost driveway be wholly contained on the lands to be retained. And again, that hydro and water services be independent from the severed lot. And I believe that is all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Al, do you have anything you'd like to add or any questions?
Just the one question on 9. For the vegetated, there is a tree line just inside that driveway. Is that sufficient, or is there's got to be something more? Because there's a hedge and trees right along that driveway on the west side of the laneway, but on the east laneway.
Yep. Aaron?
Through the chair to the applicant, the vegetated buffer is more to separate the driveway that is connected at the barn and the drive shed. So that's the only separation that needs to be made. Access to the drive shed needs to be separated from the existing I'm not sure if it's just gravel, it just needs to be separated from the graveled area, and access to the drive shed must be from the from the severed lot, so the residential piece.
Okay, so there's just in front of that shed, there's a gravel area because that east laneway was access to that drive shed, so that gravel in front has to become grass. Is that what?
It just needs to be separated from the like the driveway area that's near the barn.
Goes to the barn. Okay.
Yes.
Aaron, why don't throw that map back up and then use your mouse to kind of like define, thank you, define where we're talking about.
Sure. So you can see here, hopefully, that this is all sort of one graveled area here.
Right.
So we just need this separated sort of along the property line. So this can stay here. We just need some sort of division between the driveway so that this structure is accessed from the residential lot.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I just don't know how to do it. As far as it's a established gravel, so just to dig out the groove. Okay.
Okay. Aaron, could it also be, instead of a say a hedge or trees or something, could it be a fence? Would that also work?
Yes, absolutely. I just went with the language that I was provided by the CBO. But if committee would like this evening, we can certainly amend that condition. We just need some sort of barrier that would satisfy.
Okay, the only other question, so the hydro access to the property goes through the barn and then across to the house. So I have to get a separate service just to the house. And then I'll actually take the service out to the barn. Because it goes across the field. I don't want anybody to get hurt as far as farm equipment goes. It's very, very low to start with. I've tried calling hydro and I can't get anybody to come out. Anyway, I'll keep at it, but
Okay, do you have any other questions or concerns at all? Okay, is there any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment? Okay, so we have the recommendation in front of us with the 16 conditions. Would the committee like to amend the 9th condition that it would be a vegetated buffer or, and then add the words in or fence?
I'll have to see how deep the gravel is. So I'll probably have to take a backhoe and pull that all back, and then I can do a hedge that's cheaper than a fence.
Okay, Councillor Clark.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. If we leave the language like that, then you can see what you're dealing with
Okay.
before you make the commitment. And then the CBO is the guy that'll tell you if you've done it wrong
Okay.
or not. I
Okay.
think.
No,
But
thank you.
this language gives you a little more space, I think.
So we have the recommendation in front of us. It sounds like we're wanting to leave it as is. Mover and seconder for the recommendation, Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody. All those in favor, and that is carried. All right, you're all set.
Great. Thank you both.
Alrighty. All right, so we just need to have a motion that council adjourn the Committee of Adjustment at 7:18. Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor Brody, all those in favor, and that's carried. And then we will jump into our public meetings. And we need a motion that council convene into the public meeting to hear application for zoning bylaw amendment Z06 2021, Z01 2022, Z06 2022, and Z07 2022 at 7:18. Okay, Councillor Clark, Deputy Mayor Hendricks, all those in favor, and that's carried. Right, so the first one that's in front of us is application Z06 2021, and that is for 2852 and 28574 Center Road. And I believe, Aaron, we're also going to be dealing with application Z01 2022 for 51 Second Street, as they are kind of together but separate. Is that correct? And we have a lot of people that just joined us on Zoom, and I believe so. The agent is Joe Hentz, and that is for Z06 2021. And then we have Eric Davis. Is he on the screen? Oh, there he is. And that is for Z01 2022. And then we have a list of other folks that are on there that are party to the application. So I'll hand it over to Aaron to go through the report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to share my screen. So unfortunately, I don't have a combined image that shows both properties. So this is the first one here. So we're looking at Cordero's Auto European property. Council, of course, will be familiar with the severance that was approved for the rear piece to be used or merged with this Grey Ridge Eggs on the other side of the municipal boundary. And we also have, I wonder if am I able to just. Goodness, okay. Are you able to see the second map here? Or does it?
I think we're on the wrong one there. That's the next application, Z06 that we're seeing.
Okay, and this is Z01. So this is the second piece. So this is the Hassan Electric parcel, and this is the rear piece at the back. So the purpose of these zoning applications is to implement a condition of severance, which was imposed by the Adelaide Metcalfe Committee of Adjustment for consent B04 to 2021, and which conditionally severed a lot with an area of approximately 0.8 hectares, as well as a piece that is 0.74 hectares in size, which is to be merged with the abutting lot known municipally as 644 Wright Street in the municipality of Stratford-Caradoc. So staff note that the original zoning application was brought forward on January 7th of this year, but was deferred so that the applicant could address comments provided by the municipality of Stratford-Caradoc. They have now indicated, so the municipality has now indicated that the applicant has addressed their comments to their satisfaction. So the first application, well, they're both asking for the same, Z06 2021 and Z01 2022. They are looking to rezone the severed lots from corridor commercial to the site-specific corridor commercial CC-11 zone in order to permit commercial vehicle storage as a permitted use. The applicant has proposed the following definition as part of the application. Commercial vehicle storage shall mean the use of land or structures, specifically structures which do not require municipal services, for the purpose of parking, storing, maintaining, or loading or unloading of any commercial vehicles such as trucks or transport trailers, which include those used to transport agricultural products or otherwise used to support an agricultural use. So no zone change is being proposed for either of the retained parcels. The lands to be severed and merged are currently vacant of any buildings or structures and are unserviced. The applicant has advised that the lands will be used by Grey Ridge to support its warehouse, trucking, and egg processing facilities. Access to the lands are proposed to the existing Grey Ridge property. No buildings or structures are being proposed at this time. So for the Corderos piece, the lands to be retained contain a gas station and car wash and have an existing access to Center Road. The subject lands are serviced by municipal water and sanitary connections. And again, no changes are proposed to the retained lands at this time. So for the other piece, the lands contain an office, a workshop, warehouse, a single detached dwelling, and a communication tower, and has an existing access to 2nd Street, as well as being serviced by municipal water and sanitary connections. And again, no changes are proposed to the retained piece at this time. So the application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. We did not receive any comments from the Conservation Authority, the municipality of Stratford-Caradoc. I won't go through their original comments. I did include them in this report just for council's reference. However, I did receive an updated comment from them that I did include, which is, we have no further comments on the rezoning. Our outstanding matters can be dealt with through site plan process. So with that being received, planning staff felt that it was a good time to bring the rezoning back so that the applicants can continue with their satisfying their consent. So the PPS county official plan, they both permit and encourage industrial and commercial uses within settlement areas on full municipal services. Policy documents also provide direction for the protection and promotion of the agricultural sector and employment lands. The proposed rezoning applications, which would add commercial vehicle storage as a permitted use, will result in the expansion of an existing agriculturally supportive egg grading and warehousing facility, remaining consistent with the policy direction of both the PPS and the county official plan. So the commercial corridor policies within our official plan, they permit limited light industrial uses, such as small scale warehousing and wholesaling. So new industrial uses that engage in on-site manufacturing or processing are not permitted within the commercial corridor. But we are of the opinion that the requested use is commonly associated with light industrial or commercial uses, and therefore is considered to be in conformity with our official plan. So the proposed use of the commercial vehicle storage is considered to be compatible with abutting and surrounding industrial and commercial uses and will allow an existing industrial business to grow in place. So we are also recommending the establishment of the commercial vehicle storage to be subject to site plan control to address development items such as stormwater management, landscaping and buffering, site functionality, etc. It is recommended that site plans should be developed in consultation with the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc so that the Grey Ridge Eggs property is appropriately and functionally laid out. Staff are also recommending that a holding provision be placed on the subject lands with the removal contingent on the completion of a site plan agreement, including the registering of the agreement on title. I note that the holding symbol is a mechanism provided through Section 36 of the Planning Act, which allows the municipality to add a holding as a prefix to a zone to specify the future use of lands, buildings, or structures until such time as the conditions for the removal of the H are met and can be removed through bylaw. This will ensure that site plan approval is completed. Again, through the circulation of the original application, we did receive comments from Strathroy-Caradoc. However, they have been addressed and they are satisfied that all their outstanding issues can be dealt with through site plan approval. So my recommendation this evening for zoning bylaw amendment Z06-2021 be approved, as well as application for zoning bylaw amendment Z01-2022 be approved as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. So we'll deal with application Z06-2021 first. Joe Hens, do you have anything you'd like to add at all?
No, Mayor, appreciate staff support on this. We have no comments. Mr. Davis is online. He'll be representing Grey Ridge, but there's no comments from the Cordero side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And is there anyone on the screen or in the gallery wishing to speak to this application? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the Z06-2021. Is that the one I just said? Yeah, it is. Z01-2022. Eric Davis, do you have anything you'd like to add at all?
No, sir. No, Your Worship. Thank you very much for hearing from us this evening, and thank you very much for council for considering this. My client supports the staff recommendation, and so we'd welcome council's approval of both this application and the previous one that Mr. Hens spoke to as well. But we're here to answer any questions you have. I believe I'm joined this evening by Bill Gray of Grey Ridge Eggs, as well as George Sinker, who's assisting Grey Ridge Eggs in relation to this matter, should any members of council have any questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Eric. And is there anyone in the gallery or on the Zoom gallery wishing to speak to this application? Okay, seeing none. Is there any questions or comments from members of council? Okay, seeing none. So we'll deal with the first one there, which is that application for zoning bylaw amendment Z06-2021 be approved. Okay, Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody, all those in favor, and that's carried. And then the next one there, which is sorry, I'm mixing these up. Z01-2022 be approved. Okay, Councillor Clark and Deputy Mayor Hendricks, all those in favor, and that's carried. Okay, thank you so much. All right, so our clerk will kick out a few people off the screen there, and then we'll be jumping into the next one there, which is zoning bylaw amendment Z06-2022, and that is for 27217 Napier Road. And that is, I believe Lisa DeGroot is not able to join us, so we'll throw it over to Aaron to go through the report.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next application before council this evening, Z06-2022 for Catesville Farms Limited. So the purpose and effect of this application is to allow the applicants tenant to continue to live in the existing dwelling when a new dwelling is built on the property, whereas the zoning bylaw would permit only one dwelling per property. The existing residence would be removed upon the expiration of the 2-year period or the occupancy of the new detached dwelling, whichever occurs first. The application proposes to amend the zoning of the subject land temporarily from general agriculture to a temporary use provision T-15 in order to facilitate the construction of the second property. At the date of the temporary bylaw expiration, the lands will return to the underlying A zone. The subject property is located within our agricultural area land use designation within the official plan. So council will be very familiar. We've done quite a few of these lately. Section 39 of the Planning Act allows us to authorize temporary use of land through bylaws, and we have the implementing policies in our official plan as well. I have put together a bylaw for council's consideration this evening. The application was circulated. The chief building official provided that a $10,000 deposit will be required, and the existing dwelling will need to be removed 90 days from occupancy of a new dwelling. The drainage superintendent advised that the proposed dwelling is of sufficient distance from the municipal drain, and the applicants are able to outlet their stormwater into the municipal drain, provided they do not directly outlet into the drain. The St. Clair Region Conservation advised of no concerns with the application. So my recommendation for Z06-2022 is approval, and given the first and second reading, with the third reading to be given once the applicants have provided the security deposit and the temporary use agreement has been completed. Thank you, Worship.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. The application or applicant isn't able to join us this evening, and I don't believe there's anybody on the screen or in the gallery wishing to speak to the application. So is there any questions or comments from council? Okay, seeing none. So the recommendation is for approval. Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Hendricks, Councilor McKinnon, all those in favor, and that's carried. Alrighty, the next one is zoning bylaw amendment for a temporary use, Z07-2022, and we have Keith that's here with us. You wanna, yep. I remember you from 3 years ago. I told you we'd see you again this council term. Yeah. I think I was thinking about this. I look back, so that you've been doing this application since 2007 is what the application says. So I believe that Betty Ann's probably seen you the most amount of times. And then myself, and then Marianne, and then Mike and Sue. Just this is your second time. So hopefully once we get our OP all updated, you won't have to do this you won't have to do this. It'll just be a secondary suite. But we'll get Aaron to talk to you about that in 3 years' time. We'll get it all sorted out. You won't have to do this that often or at all ever again. Okay, Aaron.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next one. There we go, location map here. So the final application before council this evening is Z07-2022. So we're looking to extend the temporary use of the second dwelling on the subject lands for a period of 3 years. Mayor Smith has already talked about when it was originally created. So we are looking to extend again the T-1, A-2 zone, which would permit the second dwelling unit as a temporary use. We have implementing policies within the Planning Act, the county official plan, and within our local official plan as well to allow for temporary uses. I did want to note too that Section 39(1) of the Planning Act permits the creation of garden suites on agricultural properties for a period that shall not exceed 20 years. So they are defined as a 1-unit detached residential structure containing a bathroom and kitchen facilities that is ancillary to an existing residential structure and is designed to be portable. So this, it's my opinion that this would fall directly under that sort of definition. So the only caveat to that being that we don't have the implementing policies within our official plan or within our zoning bylaw as well. So again, once we get our policy documents updated in the next year, poor Mr. Cormack will not have to deal with this again. But we will have to evaluate whether it suits the policies of the secondary suite or if it would qualify as a garden suite. So the garden suite does have, it is still considered a temporary structure, but there's different criteria for each. So we can evaluate it at that time. Application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. We did not receive any comments or concerns. So my recommendation this evening for Z07-2022 be approved, and further that council proceed with the first, second, and third reading of the implementing bylaw. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Keith, do you have anything you'd like to add at all? Sound good. Any questions or comments from members of council? We all remember this from 3 years ago. Okay, we're good. Okay, the recommendation is for approval, so mover and seconder. Councillor Clark, Deputy Mayor Hendricks, all those in favor, and that's carried. Okay, that should be the last time, as Aaron said. You shouldn't have to do this again, but you never know. The OP, yeah. Well, we'll find out soon. Okay, sounds good. Okay, take care. We need a motion from council to adjourn the public meeting and reconvene in regular session at 7:37. Okay, Councillor Brody and Councillor McKinnon, all those in favor, and that's carried. All right, so that's the end of our public meeting and planning portion. So I think, Aaron, I think you should be good to go unless I'm wrong. You're good? Okay. Take care. Thank you. So correspondence are upcoming conferences, seminars, and meetings. So we have our community improvement plan public meeting for October 3rd from 6 until 7. And then our regular council meeting follows that at 7 o'clock. And then meeting after that is on Monday, October 17th at 7. Item number 1 for correspondence is the Assault Field Conservation Authority, and it's their board of directors meeting minutes for July 14th. Item number 2 is from the County of Middlesex, and it's their council highlights for August 30th, and then their council highlights for September 13th. And then the last one here is action required, and it's a resolution regarding Healthcare Connect system for members of the Canadian Armed Forces. Okay, Councillor Clark. Okay, do you have a seconder? So moved by Councillor Clark, second by Councillor McKinnon. Is there any discussion at all? All those in favor? And that's carried. And then we'll just receive and file items CC 1 through to 3. Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Hendricks, Councillor Brody, all those in favor, and that's carried. So we're getting into staff reports. The first one that we have here is the Budget 101 presentation. Unfortunately, our treasurer is not able to attend tonight, so we're going to defer that likely to the next meeting. And do you want a motion for that?
Yes, please.
Okay, motion to defer, Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor Clark. All those in favor, and that's carried. And then the next one is the operating budget actual for August 2022. Is there any questions on that? And if there is, Morgan's going to handle those ones. No. Okay, so if that's all right, we'll receive the budget actual report. Okay, Councillor Brody and Councillor Clark, all those in favor, and that's carried. And then next we have the mandatory firefighter certification, and I'll hand it over to our fire chief, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Want to just push that button?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council, please accept my report as circulated. I'd be willing to answer any questions or take any comments.
Is there any questions at all on the report and the certifications at all? That was short and sweet. So the recommendation in front of us is that the mandatory firefighter certification report be received. Okay, Councillor Brody and Deputy Mayor Hendricks, all those in favor, and that's carried. And next up is the municipal bylaw enforcement services, and I'll hand it over to our clerk and legislative services manager, Mike.
Thank you, Worship, and to members of council. I just want to first off, we did when I was posted the agenda, we talked about the review by the county. So there was a subsequent amendment to the agreement that does affect the report a little bit. It's just that it will be for a year period with no renewal periods, and the county advice is based on single sourcing, in that case, emergency. So we've been without bylaw enforcement for some time now. Mid-July, we received notice that our current bylaw enforcement officer had passed away suddenly. It did leave multiple organizations, and I say 20 plus in the report, but I think it's in the 30 plus. So quite a few municipalities without bylaw enforcement services and without an alternative. So we did sit down, talk with a lot of municipalities. What were they doing? Including conservation authorities. A lot have been scrambling to try to figure out an alternative. No alternative has been found other than hiring a part-time or full-time bylaw enforcement, availability of shared services, or tenant security, who has been reaching out to a lot of the organizations that lost the services at MEU as well. Tenant security has hired some of the former MEU employees. They provide a very similar service. The only unfortunate part was we did get a very good deal through the municipal enforcement unit. It was based on an on-call basis and was used sparingly, and it was a 4-year or a 4-hour minimum per charge. So Tenet, they look like they provide great service, but they are asking, and all the other municipalities that have gone into this have a very similar contract of a minimum of 3 hours per week at $70 per hour. Now I know every municipality within Elgin, with the exception of Central Elgin, because they have Port Stanley and they have full-time bylaw enforcement, are entering into the contract. With Tenet, I know North Middlesex is currently in the process, Asabo Bayfield Conservation, St. Clair. So there's numerous municipalities that are looking for Tenet for that alternative. Almost always, we want to quote out for these services, put out an RFP. There just was not any options. We did look at shared services. We were really hoping for Middlesex Center. They're just bringing a new bylaw enforcement officer on, so they were not interested at this time, nor had the capacity, is what the indication was. So I'm asking a few things in this. I'm asking that for the agreement to be approved and signed, grant exception to the procurement policy, as it is over $10,000. If you now just the year, it's $10,900. And usually over that 10,000, well, you must over that $10,000 at least get 2 quotes, $10,000, $25,000. Given that there's no alternative, given that it's time frame and some outstanding bylaw officer issues, we're asking that council exempt us, and that is allowed through the procurement bylaw as well, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign and execute the bylaw and agreement. So I'd happy to take any questions on this one.
Okay, is there any questions at all? Councillor Clark and then Councillor McKinnon.
Yeah, I think it's maybe more of a comment. This is just a 1-year contract, so perhaps there would be shared service opportunity down the road after we get through this year, but I think there's really no other alternative right now. Is that fair to say?
Through the mayor to Councillor Clark, I should have talked to that, that the year does give us a period to look at alternative arrangements. And if there's no shared services, say through like a Middlesex Center or something, then we will have to go into an RFP situation, even if that's getting just one, so we can get into those multi-year extension contracts. So
That was my comment as well.
I think I saw Councillor Brody.
I guess just a comment. So I just see here the financial impact. We had 5,000 budgeted, so it's probably double, but we really haven't even been touching into a total of 5,000 before, have we?
Through the mayor to Councillor Brody, some of that is that we haven't had anyone to call at this point in time. Like I said, there's 3 outstanding. It does, the remaining budget does allow us to enter into this contract, and then we'd have to budget at least another 5,000 for next year. But more than that, considering we'll look for another RFP. But it was a much better deal through MEU services
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
Is there any other questions, Councillor Clark?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if there is like, for example, a property standards piece or complaint, is it possible for this agency to not have to drive out to the area to take staff's input into consideration, or they would have to respond physically to every call?
Through the mayor to Councillor Clark. I think we would prefer that physical presence. That's what you're looking for, right? And if you're paying for 3 hours a week, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be on site to investigate, at least initially. But otherwise it'd be, working through the process with the staff in that case.
That's the answer I wanted to hear.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, so with the recommendation in front of us with mover and seconder. Okay, Councillor McKinnon and Deputy Mayor Hendricks, all those in favor? And that's carried. All right, and the last staff report is the Animal Control Services. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. Much like Mike's last report, we were left with a gap in services early on in the year that we had to fill, of course, being animal control services. As council knows, we put out a cooperative RFP over the summer months, and council approved the procurement process at the August 8th council meeting, which essentially allowed the other municipalities that were potentially underpinning the procurement process to start negotiating a contract with the London Middlesex Humane Society. So the other thing that council asked me to do was to bring a contract for services, a draft contract for services to council at a future meeting. So this is essentially what this report is today for council to consider the contract. Within the contract at a very high level, we wanted to ensure things like cost containment, annual budget predictability. So in saying that, we worked with the Humane Society to implement a 2% cost of living increase year over year, rather than leaving it variable, such as we've seen. Those costs are quite high. The term that we're looking for is a 5-year term. Mike and I were laughing the other day that it seems every 2 years we have to come back to issues and solutions. So hopefully we can settle this one for a 5-year term. Of course, insurance requirements have been appropriately accounted for on both sides, and we're meeting all of our requirements under the Municipal Freedom of Information Act. So essentially asking the Humane Society to ensure that they're keeping records and proper reporting of their service. So next steps, if council approves the contract for services this evening, it'll be forwarded to the London Middlesex Humane Society for their board to review and potentially endorse the contract. I think it's the second week of October. Upon both parties signing the contract for services, we'll work with London Middlesex Humane Society to figure out what an implementation looks like, how to get the contact information out there, and essentially do a social media campaign and marketing activities to make sure everybody knows that the London Middlesex Humane Society is our animal control services provider. And then Mike wanted me to stick this one in there. There's a bylaw that will come forward at the appropriate time once both parties have signed the contract, so that council can write this into law. So like Mike's report, we are seeing cost increases in the services that we provide. This seems to be the norm for 2022. So we did have a 2022 budget amount of about $12,000, and this contract's about $16,000 annually with the 2% increase. So that's the financial impact of the service. Beyond that, if there aren't any questions from council, I'm looking for council to kindly approve the contract for services and for the clerk and the mayor to sign the necessary paperwork.
Okay, thank you, Morgan. Councillor McKinnon.
Yes, through you to Morgan. Have all the municipalities agreed to the contract as provided by the Humane Society?
So it's a good question. So the way the RFP was developed is essentially to say, Adelaide Metcalfe is out there looking for a thing. This thing ends up being the animal control services. All of these other municipalities that were named in that RFP process may choose to use our procurement process. to potentially negotiate an agreement with animal control services. So in saying that, I know there's 4 of the 9 municipalities that were named in the procurement process that are actually starting to undertake a negotiation for contract of services. They've asked us if they could use our template contract just for consistency purposes. It's easy and probably some cost sharing opportunities in there as well.
So how does that affect our bottom line? Right now it's 16,925, I believe. So if not all of the 10 enter into the agreement, what becomes, if say 5 of the 10?
Yeah,
What
so-
happens if Middlesex Center, who's paying 101,000, backs out?
Yeah, so that'll be on them to negotiate their contract. Our
Okay.
contract's 5-year
Will
term,
be at 16.
$16,295 with a 2% adjustment year over year for
So
5
it's not
years.
dependent on.
It's not dependent on
So-
the others.
That's good.
And that's just the way the RFP was framed, again, because we gotta fortunately or unfortunately look out for ourselves and our bottom line. And of course, we wanted to provide the opportunity for other municipalities to participate, because it's a very costly and time consuming process to do an RFP. And there's a lot of expertise and law things that you need to worry about when you're doing those things. So
And my second part to that question is, they talked about a dog UPET or doc UPET, some sort of a computer program that they have that assists municipalities in getting their licensing fees out there. And I just wondered, there didn't seem to be a cost, but I wondered if they talked to you about it.
So we haven't talked to them in depth about that type of service because we have our own dog licensing program. I know Johnny's been looking at how to tweak our program, and we'll be bringing some form of a report back to council to look at, how to improve and streamline our licensing program. So we'll probably save that analysis for that conversation because they will and could take on licensing services on our behalf, and that could be part of an add-on contract or some form of addition.
Thank you.
Councillor Clark.
My question is there any discussion of a satellite office with this model of just us, or would it have to be 10 participating for that to be something that would be part of that conversation?
It's a great question. It actually, so as part of the RFP process, we had a proposal information session. So we hosted just a virtual 1-hour meeting with as many of the named municipalities as possible. And that did come up a few times around having a satellite office or a satellite facility, because it is a bit of a challenge to have to drive to London every time you want to pick up a pet, and Petrolia, for example, even further for them to go pick up a pet. So I think it's going to be, and not trying to speak on behalf of the Humane Society, but it's going to be an incremental approach where if they get 3 or 4 more municipalities or clients, then that reality becomes more tangible. They can bring those facilities out. They did mention they were talking to 2 or 3 groups about where those facilities could be located. Of course, I had to stick in Adelaide Metcalfe. We could probably find a good spot for you, but those discussions will be ongoing.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments? Yeah.
That facility has been sold. The sign is sold on it today, so.
The Glencoe.
Okay. Okay, so we have the recognition in front of us, and that is for approval for the agreement, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign and execute the bylaw and agreement. Mover and seconder, hey, Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody, all those in favor, and that's carried. All right, so the next section is our closed session, but we do have a few people in the gallery. So if we want to jump towards the other business, is there anything that any council member would like to bring forward? Councillor McKinnon.
Could you, as our representative at council or the county council, take back the Kerwood tracks again? They're in terrible shape. There's a hump right in the middle of the track. Could the county engineer approach the company
CN?
again? Yeah.
Yeah, I can bring that forward to the county engineer, and then if we probably as staff reach out to CN as well,
Yeah.
because it takes a few times to get a hold of them.
Seems to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Hendricks.
Just a reminder, the Kerwood Optimists are having another bottle drive this coming Saturday. In Kerwood. If you've got anything left from Labor Day.
Okay, is there anything else? I will just mention, there's a number of Middlesex County plowmen that are going up to the international plowing match this week. So hopefully they do well. And I know there's a number of people from Adelaide Metcalfe as well that are going up there plowing. It's Ottawa way. I'm not sure exactly whereabouts. I know some of my family members are headed that way as well. So good luck to them. And also to mention that the Middlesex County plowing match, did I mention this at the last meeting? There was a VIP section and I competed in that. Unfortunately, I did not place in first, second, or third out of 5 people. I was, however, the 4th person plowing, so I was dealing with their, mess ups is what I would say, to drive straight. But Mayor Ropp or Councilor Ropp from North Middlesex, he placed first, so I just wanted to say congratulations to him. So. Oh, no, that's good. But I will say I did win twice the VIP thing. Yeah, last time was 2019, I think. So pretty exciting. Okay, so let's have a motion to go into closed session, and that's under section 239(2)(e) and C of the Municipal Act, and that is at 7:57. Okay, mover and seconder, Councilor Clark and Councilor Brody, all those in favor, and that's carried.